Whatever happens,
It's
it's fine. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tribe Talks, episode 5. We are 6 minutes late. We had some techno issues, but we're here. Woohoo!
What can you do?
So we are so excited to have Megan with us today. And I'm going to let Steph intro Megan, but I'm just super excited for her to share her story with everybody. And she's a bit of a pretty inspiring mum because she's helping so many other mums and parents in her community. So a little bit of background on Tribe Talks. If you haven't watched it before, we created Tribe Talks to create more understanding and compassion and kindness in the world. And we thought that by giving people an insight into the lives of families who are dealing with a range of different conditions, disabilities, that type of stuff, that we could show the community how we can all work together in creating that kind of space. So this is number 5, and we've got plenty more to do. So I will let Steph introduce Megan, and let's get into it.
Awesome. So welcome, Megan. So if you haven't met Megan before or haven't seen her on socials, she's just awesome. So we had the pleasure of meeting her at the T21 Mums event last year, which was just so cool. Wasn't it the best day? It was so brilliant.
I loved that day.
And yeah, we loved that day. We still talk about it now. And, meeting her just really opened our eyes to the T21 community and to, all those different stories out there. So Megan herself is a mum of 5, which in itself is pretty bloody incredible, just saying.
You're a saint.
Last one, I swear.
They're cute babies. But and Claire is her 3rd, so she was born with Down syndrome. And really, I suppose today we'd just love to hear a little bit more about Claire's story and your journey in the T21 community. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah,
and thanks for having Miss Harriet too, who's meant to be having a nap.
Harriet.
You know what's cool? The last time I saw you, Harriet was actually in your belly. So
she was.
This is the first
she was about the size of a peanut, I think. And now look at her, nice and big.
She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. So tell us a little bit about your journey so far.
To be honest, it's all been a bit of a whirlwind. We had no idea Claire was going to be born with Down syndrome. So we were told about 20 minutes after she was born that they thought she had Down syndrome, which is a bit of a shock. We had this beautiful brand new baby, and the first things that we heard were kind of, we're so sorry. There's lots of special schools for these kids. And I was like, whoa, she's like an hour old. Why are we talking about schools?
Yeah.
It was a bit of a shock for us. It was a bit of a jarring experience at first. And I immediately just went looking for other mums because I thought, I can't be the only one that's been through this. I need to speak to somebody who knows what it's like and who can give me a bit of a guide. And that's how I ended up somehow connecting with Joel Wedd, who used to run T21 Mum. And we connected and we decided to expand T21 Mum to all of these different groups. And then next thing I know, I'm running it, and it was just a very strange situation to be in, really.
No, it's fantastic. And you're honestly, the T21 community, I still remember that day. We sat there and we had we were talking in the afternoon, and we were just sitting there looking around at all of these beautiful mamas just embracing one another. And we were like, oh, this is just amazing. It was just a beautiful day. So, yeah, so that's tribute to what you do and what you set up.
Well, Absolutely. You did see me cry a lot that day. Like a lot.
We cried a lot that day.
I know, I cried walking in there. I was like, this is so beautiful. And like the connections that your mums had, it was just such a beautiful, like warm space energetically to be in.
I think that it's a really interesting community like that. We are very, very connected. And some of the mums connect, when they're pregnant. So they'll join us when they're still 13 weeks pregnant, and they come to you terrified and going, oh my God, I can't do this. And then they come back a year later and they say, I don't know what I was so worried about. This is amazing. And you're like,
Wow.
yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing.
I just got goosebumps. Like,
Me too.
it's such a gift to be able to give mums who are scared, and
Yeah.
you know, it's priceless. Tracy Catlin's on, and she says, "Hi, Megan.
Hi, Tracy.
Harriet is getting so big."
She really is.
Yeah. So we met
Big
Tracy at the Find Your Tribe event, and she joined our community connect group, and now she's been coming up to our walking groups and stuff. So it's cool how
That's
it all
awesome.
just works together.
It all joins together, exactly.
Yeah. So,
and I think it's really important when you look at like Thrive Tribe and T21 Mum, we work across different spaces, but I think it's really nice that mums with kids with different diagnoses are now actually getting to know each other as well and starting to learn about each other's kids and stuff like that. It's really nice, and it really helps with that community. We have to kind of bond together a bit as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that helps with improving inclusion. Like, if we can learn from each other with all different, having children with different conditions, it's only going to help everyone have more understanding out there. So why don't you fill people in about, if you were to tell people what are the top 3 things that they should maybe understand about T21, what do you think they would be?
One of the first things that you're told is, oh, they're so happy. They're such happy kids. And you're like, no, no, they are not. They are kids. And they are going to be rat bags. They'll get into everything. They'll chuck a tantrum because they're just kids. And you really can't generalize like that. And that's really important. And one of the other things I always get asked is, how severe is Claire? So how severe is she? And with Down syndrome, it's a chromosome. So you've got one or you don't. It's not a severe kind of
scale thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I suppose like autism, there is different ability and different levels of how much people can do. But I often tell people, well, I'm not a doctor, but other people are. So, there's a spectrum against everything, whether or not you have a condition or not. Some people just have different abilities than others. So we don't like to use severe or mild in terms of Down syndrome. We just say you have it. Like it's something that you just have. So that's something that we really kind of try and hit home. I don't like to preempt what Claire can or can't do, kind of thing.
Of course, yeah.
Totally. I think that's important for all kids, regardless of ability or disability or conditions. Like, let's just let them be and see what their capabilities are.
Definitely. And it's really interesting how many people will limit your child. The second they hear they have a disability, they'll say, oh, kids with Down syndrome, they can't do this or they can't do that. Oh, she won't be able to learn how to read. She's like 2. Let's give that some time.
Yeah.
So now that she's 5, we are actually learning how to read, and it's a bit of a journey, but we'll get there. She'll get there eventually.
Absolutely. Something that you just said made me think of, I was watching Dylan, what's his last name, the number 1 in the world tennis player. Yeah, I was watching his interview this morning on the Today Show about the US Open, and he was talking about advocating for people with disabilities, in that they can make their own choices and not taking that away from people just because they have a disability. And it's such an important right for people to have, regardless of how able-bodied they are or whether they have a condition or whatever that is. Everybody deserves that ability to choose and to express themselves, or to be and do, be whatever they want to be.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Oh, don't you get cranky, miss.
Oh, she's so cute. My goodness.
She's considering crying.
Considering it. I'll weigh it up.
She's like, maybe not. I don't know.
All right, so what's the third thing?
I suppose the third thing is to just remember that we're just like everyone else. And I suppose that's like any family. People come up to us and they're like, oh, you're so brave, you're so strong. And I'm like, no, I just have kids. Like, you can't turn around and say, oh, someone's doing, so brave or so strong for having their child. I'm just a mum. I'm doing the best I can. I don't want to get rid of her. I wouldn't change her for anything. So we just kind of don't want to be classed as special in any way. I don't like special. We like to be as normal as possible.
I love that.
Love that too.
Oh, and just like any kids, I can hear my child getting in trouble right now.
Totally fine.
We were saying it, we were just telling Megan before we jumped on, it's totally fine if she's in the background. Yesterday, Steph and I were doing a meeting and Charlie ran through the back of Steph's screen naked, and we're just like, oh,
The funny thing was, she didn't, you know what, she didn't just run through naked. She literally was like, hi to everyone on the call, like nude. I'm like, oh, you put some clothes on.
Maybe just a little bit of clothing.
I know.
Claire does the
so
strip.
Cute.
It's fine.
Mum life. This is just how we roll here.
It's mum life. Exactly.
That's it.
We totally
I got
keep
to
it real.
preschool pick up and they said they walked past the bathroom and Claire was naked. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Did you put clothes back on her? They're like,
no inhibitions.
They always have the most fun in the room. That's what I always say about Emmy. She just doesn't. It's just like, I will just do what makes me feel good right now. And if that is
exactly
wearing my birthday suit, then that is the thing.
In that moment, they're very happy.
Jane,
I wish I was that brave.
Jane Alul said in the comments, you're brave and strong in general.
Thanks, Jane. Jane is one of my friends from playgroup. We used to go to playgroup together every Friday with her and Carter, and I get the best hugs from him. He's like a little koala. He comes up behind you and just hugs you around the neck. It's so beautiful.
That is so cute.
How can the wider community support families like yours? What can the wider community do to help you and to create awareness and inclusion?
Really important is just to talk to your kids about difference and talk to them about, I suppose we have the opposite problem that parents of kids with autism have, is that everyone assumes that your child is, completely, it's okay and we'll just deal with you normally and that's fine. Whereas with our kids, everyone handles them with kid gloves, They see a kid with Down syndrome and they go, oh, different. And I've had parents follow my child around a playground before. Literally, they walk behind her in case she falls over or hurts herself. And there I am sipping my cup of tea going, she's all right. Just leave her be. She'll be fine. But I think people just are so worried about, wanting to, help, and they just see difference and they automatically make too many exceptions. You just have to treat our kids like kids. Don't go crazy with following them around. Tell your kids that some kids look different and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that they're not fun to play with. They just want to play with you and do all the same things. So.
Yeah. Do you want to give her a hug? Is she okay?
She's wanting
totally
food.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
So feel free to ignore if I eventually just kind of pop the phone down for a second and then readjust the camera. That will be because I'm just getting her on. Actually, I might do that now. And then I'll, one sec.
It's okay. Tracy's just put a comment on anyway, so we might read that out. Tracy says, I would say don't limit our children. They can do anything that they put their mind to. And absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So just ignore me. I'm just feeding a baby.
That's okay.
That's totally fine. You're superwoman.
Well, you are talking to a mum of 5, so we kind of just go with it, right?
Oh, I don't know how you do it. I have 2, and I feel like I'm juggling.
Do you know, after a while, they just start to raise themselves. It's
is that how it works?
After a while, you're like, just don't kill yourself in the backyard. It's fine.
Made it through the day. Everyone's fed and no one died.
Exactly. I've given up on all of the extra things and I'm just going with survival at this stage.
I love that. All right. What else? What else can people do to support the T21 community or families like yours?
I mean, I just think treat us like everyone else. Try and involve us. Invite our kids to parties. Encourage your kids to play with our children. And, you know, talk to them about words like the R word, which I know we all hate. It's the dreaded R word when people drop it. Talk to them about why that makes kids feel different, might make them feel upset or hurt, and try and encourage them to learn more about other children and learn about difference, because the more that people are educated, the less they're going to, you know, say things like that or do things that upset our children. So
totally. I think even in this current climate of, you know, protests and like there's so many differences, whether it's race or disability or anything, like if we can just educate around differences and embracing difference as it's a quality. Like if everyone was the same, the world would be really boring.
I think it's really important that we talk to our kids about, you know, things like some kids don't talk. Claire doesn't talk very much. I'm pretty sure, Steph, your daughter doesn't talk much either, does she?
She's getting more words, but it just depends on, like, if there are other people that she doesn't like or doesn't know, she'll be like, but
Amy's quite
that's Claire. We get words, occasional sentences, and then silence, and she just won't talk very much. But she definitely tells you what she wants. You know, communication is not words. Communication is a lot of behaviour. And, you know, she can tell you what she wants without needing to say anything at all. You know, Claire can wander in a room and I'm like, oh, do you want a drink? And she's like, yep. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. No worries. Because she's able to communicate that in other ways. So talking to kids about communication is really important too, because I've had kids say, why doesn't she talk much? And I'm like, oh, her muscles in her mouth aren't very strong. But that's okay. Do you know what she wants? And they're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, then you know what she's saying anyway.
Well, and I think that's the thing. And I think we talked about this last week in that, you know, communication is not just talking. It's about sending messages, and whatever way that they can send the messages is totally fine. I just got a text this morning from Emmy's speech therapist, and they're all jumping up and down with excitement because we've introduced this new talker device. So it's like an iPhone with an app on it. And they only introduced it yesterday, and she got to school today and she wanted a beanbag and a blanket, and they'd been packed away. So she went and got her talker, found the picture for the blanket, and then couldn't find the beanbag one, so went to her communication folder and took it to the teachers, and they were just like, yes,
that's amazing.
So excited. Like, I could tell in the text, like, oh my God, everyone did this. And that is a huge win in communication, right? She didn't really say much, but she certainly could express what she needed and wanted at that moment. So,
and the determination to get that is amazing, that she was able to, okay, well, I couldn't find it in the iPad. I'm going to go get the communication book.
She's like her mama. She's ready to find solutions. Like, one
way I'll do it another way. You watch.
I love it.
Determined and able. She's going to find out how she can get what she needs, whether or not it, you know, she has to find a different way is no problem.
Well, and that's exactly what we're talking about, though, in that, you know, there's so many different ways things can be done, and kids all have different skill sets and different ways of communicating. If we can just embrace that it doesn't have to be one way.
Yeah, definitely.
My computer. All right. Anything else you would like our community to know?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, we're just a family where I think kids are just kids, and that's what I try and encourage all of our mums in the group to remember as well, is, you know, they have got this new baby and they have this moment where their baby's born and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to buy special things. And I'm like, no, not really, not yet. Eventually you might need a few things, but just treat them like kids and just go for life, and then adjust where need be. You know, don't go into it assuming you need to adjust.
I love how your community has just created this sense of normal around it, because it is. you know, and it's just so important that parents feel supported, because I know there are, I just from listening to you, I wasn't really, you know, too aware of what happens to parents in your communities and some of the discussions around T21. So like it was quite, some of the things you were saying at the, you know, at the event were quite shocking. And I was like, did doctors really say things like that? Like I was actually dumbfounded. And like, I think it's what you do, and that your T21 community is so important for empowering the families and the parents in this situation.
Yeah, and like I said to you at the event, you know, we were talking about that choice to have a baby with Down syndrome or not, and how you would behave. And a lot of people go into pregnancy and say, oh, I would never terminate a baby with Down syndrome. And something I tell people is, don't assume you know what you do, because I'm plugging you into charger because my phone's dying. And because of our last minute tech issues, I've had to use my phone to do all this. So.
Watching you in amazement.
Multitasking like a mum boss.
I'm like, oh, let's just keep on going. It's fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, you know, people go into it thinking, oh, I know I'd never terminate, I'd never do this, but they don't understand the pressures that women face in their pregnancies, and that push that they do get from doctors to terminate. Some of them go into meetings where they give the diagnosis and say, so we've booked a termination for Friday, without actually asking if the parent wants that. And you know, to face that kind of pressure, it's really hard for women to continue their pregnancies sometimes. And I think it's really important that we don't judge them for that choice, whether or not they decide to continue or not, but just support them to get the knowledge so that they can decide what's best for them and for their family in the long run.
Yeah.
So
you guys do an amazing job.
It's an interesting situation to watch.
So if anyone is looking for your community, how do they find you guys online?
So if you can just look up T21 Mum, they're able to message the T21 Mum page, and we can add them into the groups from there. They'll get a message either from me or from Margaret, and we'll just add them in and get everything sorted for them. We have so many groups now, I've lost track of them. We have a birth club for every year since 2013 up until 2020, and then we have an all-in-one group, a breastfeeding group, a heart kids group, and we're probably looking at a dual diagnosis group soon as well for kids that have autism, because we do have that crossover in our community as well. So it's a lot of groups to run in there.
There is a lot of balls in the air, especially with 5 kids. I don't know how you do it, Nora.
Yeah, I don't really know either. There's a lot of wine in this house this week, I'll tell you that much.
I posted a picture, like a GIF on my timeline the other day of this guy spinning all the plates, and I was like, this is what I feel like today. Like I get one going, and then I'm like over to the other one trying to get all the plates.
I actually live by the rule that at least one of them's going to drop, but that's all right. We can pick it up again later. It's fine. You know, I think we, as mums, we put so much pressure on ourselves, don't we? Like, oh, I've got to get everything right for the kids today. I've got to make sure I feed them something healthy and get them to therapy and get them to school and make sure that they're dressed perfectly. And now I'm just like, you know what? If you ate something, we're winning. It's fine. Like, one thing's going to drop. We might not make it to therapy. Maybe mum will cry before we leave the house today. But that's all right. We're surviving.
It's an adventure, right?
That's it. We'll pick it up again in an hour and we'll be fine.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And little Harriet, thank you for letting Mummy talk to us.
She's smiling now.
Oh, super cute.
She just needed that moment.
Exactly. That's fine. So we do here at Thrive Tribe. Naked kids, breastfeeding kids, whatever goes. It's just life. So if you've watched today and maybe you are a parent of a child with additional needs, or you know someone who is, please refer them to Thrive Tribe & Co. We are a really supportive community and we want to grow. So we have a free community group called Thrive Tribe & Co Connect. You can get to that from our main Facebook page. If you can't find the link, just message us and we will help you out. But thank you so much, Megan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Megan. You're awesome. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.